Hello and welcome to a new edition of Gerety Talks. Today we are having the second episode on our talk about health and pharma advertising, and we have three very special guests that are experts on the matter. We welcome Laura Potucek, Chief Creative Officer at MRM for Health. Hi, Laura. Thanks for joining.
Hello.
Tim Jones, Executive Creative Director at Klick Health EMEA. Hi, Tim. Thanks.
Hi, everybody.
For joining.
Hi, no problem.
And Stephanie Berman, Global Chief Creative Officer at the Bloc.
Hi, everybody. Great to be here.
Thank you so much. Welcome and thanks for joining us today. So let's start by introducing yourselves and tell us a little bit more about your roles and agencies. Stephanie, would you like to start?
Sure. So yes, I'm the creative lead for the Bloc network. I'm based in New York, but today I join you from Italy. We have agencies in many countries around the world. And so, my role, of course, is to set the creative bar and inspire and support people in achieving it and really helping to drive work that improves the lives of the people that we serve.
Tim?
I'll go. Hi, everybody. It's so nice to meet some old faces and familiar faces and some friends. And yeah, really excited to be here. My name is Tim Jones. I'm the ECD at Klick in EMEA. So Klick Health, as you know, huge presence, independent agency across North America, Toronto, New York and Philadelphia. But I'm charged with bringing that awesomeness overseas to England. EMEA, so France, Germany, all the markets, just like Steph, and trying to grow the amazing work that the team is doing on this side of the world. Lovely to be here.
Laura, your turn.
And my name is Laura Potucek. I'm the Chief Creative Officer at MRM for Health. So we're part of the MRM network. So it's a global network, and the health practice is located in Princeton. So I'm currently in Princeton. I was just saying earlier that I'm looking across at a field in front of me. I drove past some cows on my way to the office. But MRM for Health, we are focused on really defining and understanding the relationships throughout the health journey. And then finding moments to inform and improve health outcomes through those relationships and throughout the journey. So excited to be here today.
Okay, let's dive directly into the problems and the questions. What do you think are today the biggest challenges the health and pharma advertising industry faces? Who would like to break the ice?
I can go. I think I was thinking about this on my drive-in, and I think one of the things is kind of like our relationship with health. And if you think about it, there's been so many scientific advances, access to technology. We have data at our fingertips. Everybody has a smartphone. But with all that, as a society, we are, more depressed, sicker, more tired, and more disconnected. So I think there's really a tension in that moment, and just building on that access to this wealth of technology, there's also a wealth of misinformation. And I think that's a big challenge in health and wellness of how do you find your way through to really help inform people about their health and what they can do to take care of themselves and improve their health.
Yeah. That's great. That's a great point. And I think the other big thing which is happening now is, we have in healthcare, we have a lot of great creative people who are moving over on, to work in healthcare from big consumer agencies, people who are maybe a bit bored of selling consumer brands and wanting to do something a bit more meaningful. And that, the answer to that is normally health. Which is great. So we're seeing a strong rise in the creative bar in work that's been made in pharma, in health and wellness projects. And that's really exciting. But I think a huge challenge on the counter to that is how do we educate clients who are in this industry, who are, looking at the sort of advancements of technology, the sort of elevation of creativity, and they are scared because it is a regulated, difficult industry. their brands are needing to do a very specific thing, and sometimes the overly creative way is too big of a risk. So it's showcasing, through big award shows. I think, Gerety is fantastic in giving us a showcase of what work is incredibly effective. And then clients can use that as a case study to push the industry further every year. So it's really, really important that as we grow, we sort of bring our clients along with us.
I think one of the challenges that sits between both of those points is the difficulty of behavior change. We've never had more information about our health, about the trajectory we're likely to take if we keep on the same path. And yet we're all still human. And so any kind of behavior change is really, really hard. And yet, I think that there's a lot of progress made in that space in terms of how we can put behavior change science to work to help people make smart decisions about their health. And I think that helps us with the cause that Tim's talking about. If we can show our clients that creative work that really pushes into new territories, that still delivers behavior change, effective work, then I think that's where the kind of magic lies, the opportunity lies.
And we talked a little bit about changes, and the pandemic brought changes to everything basically in our lives. But of course, I can imagine your industry was very much impacted by it. What do you think are the biggest or most significant changes that have happened?
I think one of the big obvious ones is remote work for our teams, and being a leader in the industry and having people sort of look up to you and how you shape your department and ways of working. That's been a big adjustment. I would say in a good way. For me personally, I think I was getting frustrated with the sort of 9 to 9 work mentality of being stuck in an office. When you leave to go home to your wife and child at 6 p.m. and people look at you like you've just committed a sin. Like, well, what is this, a half day? And I think that's sort of like the creative people don't flourish in environments where they constantly watched like that. And I think this new freedom of being able to work from home, work remote, work wherever you want, is really a good thing for the creative industry, because it allows a freedom. Obviously, the flip side to that argument is not being around other creative people to bounce ideas off of. But let me say, modern agencies don't allow for that anyway, because open plan spaces, as you know, are incredibly detrimental to creative flow. You have these sort of cold clinical environments where people are too scared to say anything because, next to you have the accountant and over there's the finance team. So it's not a great, being in the office is not always the best place to come up with your best work. So I love it. I think the pandemic is really molding a new way to do things remotely. Just this morning I was brainstorming with a team in Singapore, and today I'm meeting a team in Brazil. So that's great. The connectivity from around the world is really cool.
I think as it relates to health specifically, the pandemic accelerated something that was already happening, which was that health was becoming everybody's business. And so you see all kinds of companies, all kinds of agencies engaging in work that is related to, broadly health and wellness. That was already happening, but I think the pandemic accelerated it. For the very first time, you would hear the person on the street talking about our clients. They were on name terms with Pfizer and Moderna. Which one are you getting? And so I think all of that, the fact that more companies, more agencies are engaging in this space raises the bar. That's good for all of us. It impacts the kind of talent we can attract. And I think importantly, big bad pharma wasn't necessarily bad pharma anymore in that race to the vaccine. And so I think it had a positive and lasting effect on health advertising specifically.
Yeah, and I agree. I think with COVID, to your point, Stephanie, is just like this super empowered consumer. Like
Yeah.
just so much information, like the idea that someone would specifically know the name of which COVID vaccine you want based on data. I mean, we do that all the time, but for like my mom to be like, this is the one I want because of XYZ, I mean, it's just, it really, you know, really changed, I think, just, you know, the consumer's empowerment. And if you think about even, you know, how do you approach a relationship with health? Think about the pharmacy clinics. You go and get your shots there. It's not about the doctor's office anymore. There's telehealth. There's people go to urgent care more than their doctors. So I think that dynamic is just really interesting to just think about like how our relationship with health is changing, and how can you, as a you know creative in the space, kind of think about that and help strengthen you know those different points in that journey too.
Yeah, that was something that was mentioned in our previous episode about everybody talking of different types of vaccines as if it were, I don't know, candy or something like that. That's funny. And what do you think, talking about campaigns and creativity in the industry, what is the key to making a successful health pharma campaign?
I think it's the same to making any campaign, honestly, no different, regardless of vertical. It's meaningful insight, something human, surprising, delightful, creative idea, and exceptional execution. I don't know, Tim or Laura, if you, you
I think you're spot on. It's the exact, it takes the exact amount of energy and effort to make any idea in, you know, in any industry. And I think healthcare, yeah, there are maybe one or two more layers to get a good idea out, you know, the medical side, the maybe legal compliance side. But I think at the end of the day, it's still the same, and you still get that same feeling when a great idea makes it all the way through to the end, relatively unscathed, and you get to see it in the world. I think the beauty about healthcare, though, is the end goal is so much more rewarding. I find personally, you know, from working in consumer, you know, working, for example, creating a beer commercial, and, you know, yeah, it takes 9 months to do the shoot and it's amazing. You launch it, you're really excited and you see your work everywhere. But at the end of the day, it's a beer commercial, you know, you're selling beer. And the flip side to health is that, you know, you go through that same process, but I think at the end you are rewarded in something which is really unique to this industry, you know, that purpose hits you every time, and you feel like you're doing something better, and you feel like you're able to create stuff in the world that makes real impact, you know, from a health point of view.
I think to your point, Tim, it's like that heightened responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, it's not only do you have to have that amazing strategy, surprise and delight, creative hook. Oh my God, you know, it like hits you, but then it's the responsibility that, you know, there's people's lives that could be impacted or improved by this. And I think, you know, being able to step up to that kind of pressure and succeed with something that's, you know, amazing and well received. I feel like pharma gets a little extra when you can do that.
And also, talking about campaigns, there is a big craving for humor in advertising, especially after the pandemic and the agitated world we are living in. Laughter has been shown to provide a myriad of health benefits, and yet, when it comes to healthcare marketing, we tend to take things very seriously.
Yeah.
Though it is true, healthcare brands need to approach comedy with caution. What do you think is the relationship between humor and advertising in the healthcare sector, and how do you think it can be used efficiently? It's a tricky thing.
Yeah, I'll jump in, because I love using humor. I think it's a great untapped emotion in healthcare for sure. I think you're right about use it with caution. That's a big concern. I think we don't see a lot of humorous campaigns because most times, a lot of the subject matter is not very funny, and it takes a really brave client to push against that sort of emotion, or go into a new space that isn't so much about empathy, but more so about entertainment. And that is a trick. And look, if you do it right, it would stand out, and it would be so impactful. Because, you know, I was speaking to a cancer patient the other day, and they were saying the worst thing about being a patient is this sort of bombardment of sympathy. Oh, so sorry, so sorry. Where they just wanted a joke to get through the day. You know, tell me a stupid dad joke. You know, that it's that type of stuff which there isn't a need for that, I think, in your health journey. So if you do it right, it can be super effective. But it's a yeah, it's a wild card sometimes.
You know, it's understandable why clients are nervous about it. You know, I think health is, it's sensitive, right? And we all process difficult situations and that kind of news and differently. That said, I think there are many, many examples of where humor has been used really, really effectively in health. Sometimes the lighter side of health, you know, the things that we can laugh about, the conditions that maybe aren't life-threatening. Even, you know, there's one example for the Indian Palliative Care Association, probably about 5 years ago, called The Last Laugh. And they took patients who were terminally ill, and you would think that was no laughing matter, right? But that the insight was that talking about death was taboo. So they trained those patients in stand-up, you know, big comedians in India, and the patients delivered stand-up to an audience of physicians to break the taboo. And it's honestly one of the most kind of bittersweet, beautiful pieces of work that even at that, you know, in those last months of life, they were able to get that last laugh. And so, you know, I think you have to throw my pen. You have to navigate it carefully. But you know, I think it can be very powerful, even in difficult situations.
Yeah, and I mean, we're all human, and dealing with, you know, a health issue can be challenging. I think, you know, we're looking for connection. I think there's a reason why they say laughter is the best medicine. Like it feels good to laugh and have something that you can relate to. And Tim, you also mentioned like as a form of entertainment, like, you know, I just as an example, in the Super Bowl this year, I thought the Michael Sarah V campaign was hysterical. And it's for like a pretty, you know, it's for, you know, a skin lotion, but they connected it. They really teased, like, did Michael Sarah make this brand? And went right to their strategy. It was like, no, it was developed by dermatologists, but just the humor behind it. Even the spot was directed by Tim and Eric. And I just think that that is like, that's just great. Just hit the right tone. And that's kind of like an example of, you know, entertainment in the health and wellness space that I thought was great this past year.
And speaking of caution, I know in the US there are very many restrictions around communication in the health sector, which are very different to other countries or regions like Europe or Latin America. What do you think the US can teach these markets? And on the other hand, what do you think the US can learn from them? I use the word teach, but it's like...
I'm more interested hearing from Tim and Steph about the more global, and
yeah,
you know,
maybe
I feel like I'm going to be jealous of like the, you know, the more open regulations.
The leniency.
You know, I sat with an Italian team this morning who told me they have more restrictions than anybody else, right? And so I think it's the same as I hear from clients. Every client organization thinks their med legal team is the most restrictive. Every country thinks that they are the most restrictive. And you know what? They're all right. Yeah. There are many restrictions, and with good reason, right? We're trying to keep people safe here. And so I understand the reasons for it. I think what the US has done well is really elevating the importance of craft. Sometimes your idea will be death by 1,000 cuts, and the headline will die a death by 1,000 cuts, you know, through those med legal committees. Again, with all the right intentions, but the quality of the craft, I think, has really mattered in the US over the last several years, so that even when that happens, you know, the work still feels elevated, honestly. Tim, you worked a lot in Europe too. So
yeah, well, yeah, it's I think just to echo your points, it's the same. It's the same but different. I think the biggest difference between the US and global markets is the mentioning of the brand name specifically. So America has a very lucky situation where they can speak directly to patients about the exact treatment. So that brand can become a brand, which is cool. And you think, oh, that brand for my psoriasis is cooler than that brand for my psoriasis, kind of like a Coke versus Pepsi type of thing. But with that comes a lot of legalities and a lot more restrictions. We see, heavily branded Fair Balance, direct to consumer ads, ISI, a lot of legal documentation just to, because you're not selling a packet of crisps, you are selling medication, which has serious side effects in most cases. So that's a big difference in Europe, global markets, APAC. You sort of less mentioning of the brands because you speak more to the disease area and a sort of call to arms to ask your doctor because they are the bastions of knowledge. Ask them what they would recommend, and I think that's the difference from that point of view. But in the UK and EMEA, it is really still a very regulated process. And, even though it's unbranded, in most cases, it goes through the same funnel. And there's a lot of serious consequences, of course, if you get it wrong. So it is still difficult. But there is freedom, I guess, in markets that don't have bigger budgets. And this is what I love about UK and Europe. On the global scale, when you compare the marketing budgets here versus in the US, it's hugely different. The US has insane amount of money, which is great, but not so great for creativity because the bigger the sort of the investment, the more shareholders there are, and that can sometimes not be beneficial for creative ideas because it goes through this sort of process with more rigor, more eyes, as Steph was saying, death by a thousand cuts sometimes. Whereas in the UK, you are a little bit scrappier, you are dealing with smaller budgets, but you got to sort of use creative ways to bring ideas to life, and us in the industry as creatives, we know people who can get things done quicker, polish the craft in a way that's maybe different to photography or, all these sorts of ways around it. So yeah, it's definitely a different ball game, but it's still an exciting one.
Yeah, and I think just Steph, building off of your point about craft, I think as far as in the US and, partnering closely with clients, having clients that are on board with creating impactful work, when you have that client partnership, it makes those, med and legal reviews a collaboration of here's the objective, here's why we want to do it, how can you help us, and really managing what's risk versus comfort level or opinion, really being mindful of the risk, and then any ways to keep craft pure and true outside of that. That's always I think the goal of creative, to kind of shepherd that idea and allow the craft and execution to come through.
And what do you think are the latest trends that are shaping the future of healthcare?
We'd be remiss not to mention AI. So I'll throw that grenade and I'll just let Steph or Laura answer that.
It's interesting. I think AI, I see it as a tool. It's a way to enhance our work, right? And it's exciting, it's interesting, it's inspiring. But when AI is used in a surprising, helpful way, that's like what I love the most. Like as an example, the inflation cookbook. So based on, the price of what things might cost in the supermarket, you can get a recipe that, helps you save money and plans out your whole shopping list. It's just like there's a wealth of information that as a human, I would never be able to keep track of all that and like process it. So when AI can do something like that, that feels like so useful and has that like surprise and delight, I think that's kind of like the sweet spot of really helping it, inform and make an experience better.
Yeah, that was actually one of my questions about AI, and if you think it's good, if you think it's bad, if you're using it, how you're using it, are you scared about it?
Yeah, we definitely use it. I mean, you have to because it streamlines so many. The beauty of AI is it's a tool, and if you have an idea and you say you're an art director and you can't particularly draw or anything, AI image rendering is a great way to elevate that, so that you are sort of playing at the same level of everyone else. So it's great, and it does it really quick. And it can speed up a pitch process. There's great things. Obviously, final execution, that's a whole nother ball game. There we have to
Right,
speak about
definitely.
traditional crafts. You can't send it to print. But AI is a big thing. Here at Klick, the thing that I really loved was they have this innovation lab, which is a huge department called Klick Labs. And they've been playing with AI, not sort of as a fun thing. They're literally inventing technologies that will help the health industry. A few weeks back or a few months back, they released the voice to diabetes project. So basically, they invented a way with AI to detect diabetes in someone's voice clip.
What? Oh
Six
my God.
seconds or 6 to 10 seconds of somebody saying something, and this AI can pick up with 86% accuracy diabetes. It's insane. And that's higher accuracy than blood tests. So this is phenomenal technology that now, can you imagine that technology applied across the world? Imagine third world
Mm.
countries where no one is getting tested for diabetes. All of a sudden, you can be sending a voice message on WhatsApp and get diagnosed. It's cool. Like that's the reason why I wanted to get into healthcare, is to be near these innovations to see how we can use creativity to make them really come alive. And the other big thing, and I won't go on too much, but I'm just excited about AI. But the other huge thing is Klick. The founders of Klick are so motivated to push the industry forward that they've put an internal prize of $1 million to anybody at Klick who invents an AI idea that will change the way that they do business. So it's not just a trend, it's an actual business case, and people are really, really motivated. I mean, you must see some of the ideas coming through the competition rounds. It's insane. And we use AI across all of our processing, from project management, everything. It's really, really, really helpful in most cases. So yeah, exciting times for the industry. Lots of change.
Stephanie, Laura, what is your opinion on AI?
I think, your question, are you afraid of it? I think, to Tim's point, it's not something to be afraid of. If you're afraid of it, you're dead. And, I speak as somebody who has been working a long, long time. And when I started my career, that was at the beginning of the quote unquote digital revolution in creative departments. And jobs changed, the kinds of people you had in a department and the way that you got work done changed over time. And the same will be true. There will be jobs in 10 years' time, 5 years' time, maybe even a year's time that we don't know about yet, that we haven't defined, that, we don't know what they are. And all of that is to be embraced. And I think both at the kind of the grander scale of impact that Tim is talking about in terms of AI's potential to, change health, that is a magnificent opportunity. And then, in the way that we get our work done, it changes, but, it offers just new ways of doing things. To Laura's point, it's a tool.
Yeah, and I think that the insight, the idea, the storytelling, that's innately human, right? So I really see AI as a tool, but I do see, I love that example of the diagnosing diabetes with a voice. That's like the surprise and delight. That's just amazing. I just think, I'm as somebody who's been in this industry for X amount of time. I'm just inspired about, like, what can we make? How can we tell stories by using it?
Yeah.
So it's a positive thing, I think, like I said, to enhance our work.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure Tim's busy on that $1 million project.
Yeah. I was going to say my behind this painting, there's just sticky notes like your wall. I'm like a beautiful mind, just trying to, trying to get out.
And is it internal just for well, I have no idea about health advertising, so I wouldn't be able to create anything new. But is it just for
It's
people
it.
who work there? Okay.
It's internal, so come and join us, and then
Okay.
throw an idea, and then yeah, no,
It's a nice incentive, I have
it's
to
a
say.
huge incentive, and to have it from from the top person is great, because you know that it's not just lip service, it's literal. It's happening. It's a mandate. It's a vision. It's a mission, and it's really exciting. Especially when I look at some of the ideas that are coming through. Ways to fast track e-detail. Like basic stuff in our industry that is so tedious, but using AI to intervene those moments and come up with better solutions to elevate creativity, make work smoother. Just everything is just great. There's so much, not just image, making images look pretty, which I'm learning daily as well. It's not just about that.
It's so crazy because you just reminded me of the very first e-detail I worked on. We printed the route.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Can you imagine? We can do things so much better, and to improve the way we work as well. I think it's so exciting.
It's so funny. We used to have, when I was in Cape Town, we used to have the old way of you'd walk around with a job bag and a transparency over the printed artwork, and you'd need a stamp from every department. I remember queuing outside my creative director's office like a little school kid, like waiting for them to stamp approve. Good sound.
And the last question to wrap up, what would be your advice for someone who wants to get into the health and pharma advertising industry today?
I can kick that one off. I think, as with any other space, not just health, I think it's, following the best work in the best shows. So what great can look like, even if you don't know how to get to great yourself yet. And then, early in somebody's career, they often jump around to advance quickly, and all of that is understandable. But I think the important thing to jump for is the mentor. Who are you learning from, whether that's your immediate manager or the person leading your department. Does that person know what great looks like, and can they coach you to learn how to get it there yourself?
That's the most important thing inside of health and outside of health. I think, I've been very lucky enough to work with both of these incredible creative leaders on this call, and that's been such an advancement for me. Learning as I go through my career, the best from people. How to do things differently, how to think the way that they think, and kind of you just got to absorb all of that. And if I wasn't in a place that had people like Steph and Laura, I'd hate to think just how far behind I would be in terms of spotting a great idea, executing it to the best perfection, talking to clients in a way that they can understand, all these little things that you only get when you're around great people and good people. Follow good people as well, because, a lot of it is about being a human, and, follow your heart. If your gut says a job isn't great, don't do it. But if you know that you're going to be working with good people, making good work, where do I sign?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think anyone who's interested in getting into this field, there's just tons of opportunity. There's so much innovation, whether that's pushing creativity or product innovation. It's kind of great. You can really, carve out your own path. And I do agree that mentorship is huge. So, really considering that mentorship relationship, maybe over a jump in title or salary, where can you go and make the best work?
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, ideas, and with us. And best of luck with all the projects and the AI things you come up with. And thank you so much. for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.